Matthew chapter 28. You want to read it? You're going to read it now, and I'm standing here. All that time. Yeah. Start at 18. Yes. 18? It does 18, say. 19.
Therefore go and make disciples. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Matthew chapter 28, verse 19 and 20. Amen. How about the Great Commandment? That's the Great Commission. That's where we go and make disciples. That's evangelizing. That's what it's all about. Would you say, anybody? Would you say Virginia? Yeah. Now we're going to give the great, as commission, the great commandment is to love.
Love thy neighbor as thyself.
Somebody, that's one of them. Talking about the one that loves with all our heart and soul. Yeah. Let's find it though, real quick. That way it's in the book, but I know we can. Okay. I only got one mic all of a sudden, but yeah.
It says, Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. It's in Matthew 22nd, 37.
Matthew chapter 22, verse 27. That is the great. Okay, I just want to see if y'all listening. Thursday. Matthew chapter 22. This is for love. This is the great commission, and the great commandment is to love. The great commission is Matthew chapter 28, verse 19. Okay? And that's what we hang everything on. The evangelism and on love. Amen. Hey, Jonathan. Thank you. So let's keep going. Anybody else learned something? We going back and reviewing. Anyone else learned anything? This pastor started teaching on the Scrappy Church. Anybody else? Nobody else learned anything? One thing? Okay. All right. We're going to keep moving then. And I find my page. Chapter 2. We're going to end it. Last week we ended on being lifetime learners. And so 36, page 36. It's going through 3 of what we're going to really break down in the book. It just gave you a little overview. Each chapter is contributed to it, though. But we're just going to give you a little snapshot of which each chapter is talking about. Okay? So the need for structure. Anybody has the mic? I'm the only one who has the mic. I want somebody to read. That's fine. Anybody else got a mic? Jonathan? Yeah. Who want to read for us? A need for structure. Page 36.
Scrappy churches must have structure that allows them to continue to move forward at a high level. Structural effectiveness includes the right structure outward deluge, the right structure for welcome readiness, and the right structure for assimilation, backdoor closure. Let's examine each of these structures provided by the turnaround cycle in more detail.
Keep going.
Let's now return to the turnaround cycle and look at the outward deluge. Those 2 words were chosen carefully for a reason. First, it is a clear statement the church is focusing more on her community. The outward focus is the biblical response to both the Great Commission and the Great Commandment. Second, the outward focus is a deluge or flood of efforts. As we have observed turnaround churches, we see outward efforts increase as much as 4-fold. For example, if 10 members in a church were spending 1 hour a week each ministering and reaching out to the community, that would mean the church is spending 10 hours a week outwardly focused. You going?
Yes.
Oh. When that church becomes a turnaround church, the focus increases to 40 and more hours a week, for example. Perhaps more people begin to reach out to the community, or perhaps some of the members spend more time doing so, or both. The point is, a turnaround church or scrappy church does not shift its resources outwardly in an incremental fashion. They shift the resources dramatically. It is a deluge or flood in a new direction. Here are some of the examples of the outward deluge.
And they give us some examples, but it's saying that we reach out to the community more. We go outside, have more community effort projects and ministries, and not only in the church. Deluge also means a severe flood, an overflow, a soaking, a showering. So we as a church, a scrappy church goes more into community, and we do more in the community. God-centered things outside of the church. And where we were doing 10, now we're doing 100. You know what I'm saying? Drastically. In other words, loving the community more. We were talking in the day class, we think about the different things that we have inside the church that reaches outside the church. And I think Ms. Dorothy said the pantry, they're doing really good now, and they kind of give out at least 200 people they minister to through the food pantry downstairs. Next Thursday morning is a breakfast that they're going to have, and it's in correlation with Pastor's anniversary, but they're going to do it quarterly from now on, where we feed the community. We feed the less fortunate, we feed the homeless downstairs, and it starts at 7, next Thursday morning from 7 to 10. It's going to do more outreach. Reverend Knight, we heard, has been teaching at the Salvation Army. More outreach, more building relationships outside the walls, as well as inside the walls. Amen? So that's the outward flood. And we do it, and it's more of a flooding of it, not just a trickling of it.
So I'm glad you brought that topic up. My belief system is if we do that more, and we go out to the community and we share the blessings that God has given Beulah, we will be able to bring people into our fold, because they will say, hey, that church there, they're doing something for the people in need. They're not just getting resources and not providing resources out.
Yeah.
And I've always shared this about the community. The community needs to see you, and not once in a blue moon. They need to see you on a regular basis so they can become to believe. And, you know, when you're living by faith and you're doing those kind of things and we scrapping, you know, the scrappy church gets all the loose ends that's out there running around and lost. And I think that I'm glad we have this, because that's been in my mind for a while, about being scrappy, about bringing not only members of older members, but younger members. There's a lot of young people who really don't know anything about the Lord. And if they see us out there, because we all have our connections to the community, they may say, hey, I want to go over there and find out what those people are doing. They seem to be caring about the health and welfare of the community.
Amen. Anybody else? And a lot of times we are the scrappy church, but we are also God's people. And so that's why we evangelize and we show love, genuine love. Not just for leadership, but it's for everybody. To love, to go out and love, and to show Christ in us, if Christ is in us. Wherever level you are, wherever place you are, that's where you show the love. I was on the street. I use that for another example. Okay, so he gave some examples. The church leads the members in a systematic way to invite people in the community to church. He said we have resources called Invite Your One to help invite your one, help guide churches. Everybody invite one. They began a ministry in the community of English and second language. There's different ways that you can do so that you can get the the community involved. It said the church trained members to have a gospel conversation with people they encourage every day. That's like soul winning. Amen. And so the church used facilities for the community. We have the soup kitchen, we have the pantry, we have the, Jonathan is collecting socks for the homeless, right? For the shelters, and he does it every year. And so and if you got an idea, I'm sure Pastor would love to hear it. But it's about building relationships and loving folks, not only in the church, but outside the church, and doing it in a floodingly fashion. Okay? Anybody want to add, comment? Okay, let's keep going then. So let's go to the next page. Keep reading for me, David. You got that real loud voice.
Obviously, the examples are endless. The point is, the church makes a significant shift in how its members spend their time. Sometimes the church makes a similar significant shift in its budgetary resources as well. But it's not merely a shift, it's a deluge.
Yes. It's
Welcome. You want to keep going?
Yeah, you see the significant shift in membership, spend their time and resources. I guess, some of us think we at the church 24/7 now. Amen? Some of us here all the time now. But when you get to this, it's going to be even an overflow of it. But that means not only you here, but we have newer people that that can help. You don't have to be the same tenfold. Yeah, faithful folks. Yeah, there's be an overflow of other folks if we as older members can move over and help instead of thinking it's ours and nobody else can do it but us. And I'm guilty of that sometimes. You get territorial, as you would say. And so you have other members that don't mind doing it, but they're not going to fight you over doing it. You can go ahead and do it till you fall over. Then they'll get in there and they'll do it. So it's better to have two people working together. I know you've been doing it for 25 years, but move over. It's time to, thank God for your service. But you can move over and help another person do the same thing and do it better. Don't you always want somebody to do better than you or further than you? That's what we want for our kids.
Us that Pastor had just preached this, we should never look at it as other churches opening up in the area or another church on the same block or something. It's not competition. We are all striving for the same goal because we're building God's kingdom. So that's how we need to look at it. When more members come, they can help add to the kingdom, labor in the vineyard along with us. And as we're getting older, we can step aside. We can still help, but we can step aside and let them lead because we need help. We get tired and burnt out.
Yeah.
I know, I'm speaking for myself too.
Yeah, me too. And sometimes we get territorial, and we've been guilty of it. And I think sometimes we don't give the folks who have already done it ahead of us the gratitude. Sometimes it's just thanking you because you didn't get there. It didn't get there on its own. It got there with other folks. But sometimes we come and we think we're the one that started it all and forget it and don't say thank you to the folks that came before you. Just to say thank you. Recognize, even though, you don't, sometimes it's good to just say thank you. You know what I'm saying? For anything that we do. And I don't know about nobody else, but sometimes you be so focused on the ministry that you forget to do it. And so you just have to stop it. And one thing about learning these lessons, we mess up. So the fact of the matter is we got another chance at it. Amen? Okay, let's keep going. Okay, welcome readiness. Read, David. I'm just going to get David because he got a loud voice. But if anybody want to read, you're welcome to read.
Yeah, please feel free.
Yeah. Welcome readiness.
As we continue on the turnaround cycle, the point of welcome readiness becomes very important. Why is that? Welcome readiness means the church is ready to receive guests who come to the worship services. Is it a shame to do so much work to develop relationships in the community only for them to have a bad experience when they visit our worship services? Welcome readiness is so much about the attitude. We should prayerfully seek to see others as Jesus sees them. We should have a servant attitude toward our guests. We should rejoice at the presence and let them know it.
Amen. So we go out and we flood the neighborhoods and we invite folks and we love folks and we tell them come on in, and then when we come in, we about as mean as rattlesnake. We don't smile. We don't say how you doing. Welcome in. I mean, I'm just saying in general, and I'm not saying that's what Beulah does. Amen. I'm just saying it generally. That's what I wanted to use this for. I was on Main Street Friday, and just sitting in the car waiting for the barbershop to open. And with a couple of your gentlemen, group of them standing right on the block. And, you know, you could tell they were drinking, and you could tell, you know, that's yeah. And that's fine. That's what they do. That's what they were doing. But one thing they were doing, everybody that came by, they said hi. Everybody that came by, they wanted to give a hug. They had a group of them. I thought it was, I took it on my camera just to keep, it was a group of them. And they were, you know, like spirit, like what they're doing, but they stopped and they said, hey, how you doing? How you doing? And then the friends of them would come over and they would hug one another. One guy looked like he was going through something. So they stopped and they hugged him. They waited for him to tell what was going on in his life. And these were right there on the street right here. And of course, you know, they were doing their thing, but they had what we need. Yeah. And love. Because it didn't matter what they were going through, don't matter, you know, because they all look a little intoxicated, but they were there together loving on one another. And we in the church and got Jesus and can't do that. Yeah, we're doing a lot better. It's all, yes.
And then also how Pastor is reminding us to take that smile out of our pocket and give it to the neighbor next door. It's helping.
Yes.
It helps. So turn around, you smile, they smile back.
Yes.
Get up and greet one another. Not just the new members, but the new visitors.
Everybody.
Pass by. You greet them as well. So I think we're doing better. I see the difference.
And we're going to do more better, much better, because when you go out in the community and you loving on folks out there, they don't have the right clothes. They may not even have taken a shower. But you invite them to come in. And so you have to love them where they are. Yes.
I agree with Andy, not only the visitors, those that are within the congregation.
Yes.
The members also, because I hear from members when they say you pass by them and don't speak,
Yeah.
you go and speak to the guests.
Yes.
What about me?
Yeah. Yeah.
So on that note, though, those members who say you walk by and you go speak to the guests, but you don't speak to me, so what's wrong with them reaching out to you? It's a two-way street. You know, I always hear people say, oh, ain't nobody speak to the person or whatever. So sometimes you have to make yourself readily available to speak to someone else. Hey, what's happening? How you doing? Maybe the person didn't intentionally meant to go by you, but we're so ready. We want to welcome the new members so much because we want to keep them, right? We just go to them naturally and get up and greet them. So if somebody walk by you and they don't speak, you say, oh, well, hey, how you doing this morning?
Yeah, that's it. Yes, it is.
It's a two-way street for the visitors to approach us. All of us are not sitting up with frowns on our faces and looking like we don't want to be bothered. So I agree with Dave. This is a two-way street for the visitors to greet us as well as we greet the visitors.
Yes.
Amen.
And the members. I'm going to add the members to you, and the members. Because on your way to greeting the visitors, hug a member. Because sometimes people just think you going to the visitors. Pastor say go greet the visitors. But yeah, David is right. It is a two-way street. So now we're aware of it. So let's just greet everybody on the way. Right? It ain't going to hurt nothing.
I think that's why you see the
do your best. Yeah, you do your best. It's nothing like a smile and a hug. That really, David.
I was gonna say nothing like a wave,
A wave.
a little nod. Hey, how you doing? You don't have to really just get up and get them. Just see somebody. Hey, yeah, and I just nod your head, recognizing people. We all want to be recognized. I don't care who you are. Everybody needs a love, a little hug, a little recognition, because that's just the human nature of who we are.
Yes.
And I think, when people feel loved and cared for, well, I'll keep it on me. When I feel loved and cared for, I want to come back.
Yeah.
I don't care what nobody else saying. I ain't looking for the people who's not smiling and all that. I'm trying to get love when I come to church. That's what I come to church for, to help me get my love so I can share my love with somebody else and that joy. So we all want to be loved. I don't know anybody who don't, but I definitely do. So if you see me, you can hug me anytime. I love hugs.
Hey. I normally now, when we learn in the last class, though, if some folks I don't know, I ask them if it's all right to hug them. Because remember, we learned in some classes before that some folks really don't like you to hug. So sometimes you have to get their permission to hug them. And so sometimes you have to do that too. Big Featherston, Lawrence Featherston in the day class, you know how Big Feathers is. And he was, well, I call him Feathers because we work together, but, he said in class as correction officer, we are taught to look that way. I mean, we're taught to look mean because we don't want the inmates messing with us. And so he said he had to kind of switch it up a little bit, and we all do as correction officers, because we really do are trained not to look nice, but we are nice. And he said it was an inmate that he spoke to, and the guy, I don't think he said he spoke to him right then, but the guy disposition changed because he did say good morning to him, or even the guys in jail, they too change someone when you say good morning, how you doing, because some of them don't get that, and some people don't treat them that way. And so when you even treat them with a little respect, and so when folks coming in these doors, we done went out there, we done did the effort of all that, and they come in the door, at least treat them a little nice. Not only coming in, but doing the service, after the service. Just not when pastor say go do it and then we done. Then after the service, everybody go about their way. Goes a long way.
Yes, it goes a long way. It makes it all
Because you don't know what it took for folks to get in the door. What it takes sometime for you to get in the door. And you come every Sunday and come to Bible study. But what about those folks that don't come every Sunday? And we done went out there and loved on them, and they getting it together. And a lot of folks out there come from saved families. You know that, right? They know much more Bible than you do. They just had a bad break. So we just got to do more. If we're going to go flood the community, and we're going to have to be more welcoming, and we are. We're getting better. Like Pastor says, always room for improvement. Even the way we look at folks. We got to say something. Sometimes it's just the way you look. Yes. Mm. Amen. Anybody else? Okay, so we got to do better. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The back door closure. So when we get that together, then the back door will close a little better. There won't be so many people. I'm going out. Read for me, David.
Back door closure is about assimilation. We reach out to the community, we welcome our guests, but we do everything possible in God's power to keep them. We desire them to be a functioning part of the body of Christ. 1 Corinthians 12, rather than an occasional guest or a eventual dropout. There's a lot to say about structural effectiveness for all three parts on the turnaround cycle. It is vital for a scrappy church to become a turnaround church. I will walk you through each of these three critical issues in the next 3 chapters. But first, allow me to address one more time the hope your church has.
Keep going.
As we it's postscript, the resurgence of the neighborhood church. As we unpack the details of what actually took place in scrappy churches, it could prove tempting to get lost in the details and forget about the big picture. And the big picture is the amazing reality that an increasing number of smaller and mid-sized churches are thriving, even in the supposed shadow of larger churches. There is a revival of neighborhood churches. Your church address is not an accident.
Go down.
I'm going to
Go
say
down.
that again. Your church address is not an accident.
Yes.
I write this postscript as a reminder of God's work in churches like yours. I write it as a reminder of the hope you have. And I write this reminder so you will remember the big picture. God is not done with your church. He is not done with your leadership.
Amen. There's hope. God is not done. We're on 92 Catherine Street for a reason. And folks know where we are. And folks know who we are. And folks know whose we are. And so we can't get it twisted. There is hope. And for any church that comes around, we compliment them and not compete with them. Amen. I think, I'm going to use this again. Reverend Sarah had called and she wanted me to go out to a nursing home and visit this family, young lady whose relative was transitioning. And the young lady never been to our church. She don't know anything. We have some members that work at the nursing home. Hyde Park, I think it was nursing home. It's called like Eleanor now. And so when I went out there, I saw 3 or 4 members that go to Beulah. They work there. I said, oh, you weren't here, you weren't here? But anyhow, one of them must have told the family member that night to call Beulah so that someone could come out and pray with them. And went out to sit with the young lady and pray with her and talk with her. And I said, well, I'm from Beulah. And she said, and I started talking to her about Beulah. And she said, who don't know Beulah? I know Beulah, but she don't come to Beulah. But she knows about our church. Not only did the lady, I guess whoever told her, she never told me. She couldn't remember who told her. But the fact of the matter is, Beulah does have a reputation. Folks do know the church of Beulah. Now, my thing is, do they know the church or do they know you? It's Beulah. There's a difference, like she said. Outside in the community, we still children of God. And folks don't see you, they say, don't she go to Beulah? Right? They may not know your name, but they know you go here. Look, the inmates in jail know where we went, some of them. Don't you think, ain't you a Christian? So people do know who we are. And so that makes you even, I think, act a little better, right? We're supposed to. Now, everybody can have a little off day now. we all got a little off day. Let's keep it real. But just pray that the Lord give you another chance to get it right. You know what I mean? Just pray we ain't mess up nobody in that off day. You know what I mean? Because we all have a little, get up with a two people at the same time. The old you and the new you. So the fact of the matter is, as you get up and you pray with your one, you know what I'm saying? Y'all act like y'all know. Y'all know. And so we have to make sure the right you come outside. And the right you in your house too. Because sometimes we can be mean right in our house. And then come outside. I kid you not, me and Ty was doing that one day. Ty got on my nerves so bad, we was coming back from somewhere. And I told her, she kept going. I said, be quiet. She kept going. I said, be quiet. Next thing I know, she said it one too many times. Before I knew, I done backslid. Just that quick. And then the man was standing in the road and he was dying. I said, hey! Just that quick. I done changed personality just. And I caught myself soon as I did it. I said, oh, you know what I'm saying? But we can do that. So we got to have the right personality all the time, which is Christ. I kid you not. But I kept telling her to be quiet. And see, I don't really hit her. So when she went one time too many, and I just like backs. It scared me. And then the man was like directing traffic, and I said, oh, hey. How you doing? But when we do that, we got to be careful. You know what I'm saying? We be fussing with our kids. We come in the door. We fussing with our husbands, our wives. We got to get it right before we get in the door. Matter of fact, before we even get out the house. Yes.
To be like.
Yes.
So it's an everyday process. It's something that we're striving to be, something that we're striving to be more Christ-like.
And you know, I'm going to add to Miss Virginia, but in that, though, sometimes we only get one time to make a good impression. When we not just add, not piggyback, because we done got them in the door, we done see them in the street, and you may not get another chance at it. Go ahead.
And that's what I was about to say. It's one thing to recognize what we do wrong, but when we recognize it, we should try to correct it right then and there, and not wait till we maybe see them again. If we can call them. I was wrong. I apologize. I'm going through something. We have to acknowledge it if we're going to grow.
Yes. Yes, we got to adjust our attitudes. That was last week. We got to adjust. Anybody else? Yeah. I think it was Pastor that said it, and I think they said it in the day class, that you might be the only Bible somebody ever reads. You might be the only Bible. They may not never read the Bible, but they'll read you. And so if you say who you are, the banner of it, and we always striving to be better. So we just be better. I think Cheryl Kelly last week, she said, we vow to be scrappy Christians. We're going to be scrappy Christians. How about you? We're going to do what the Lord asked us to do.
Amen.
Even if we mess up, we're going to get up. Right? And just be scrappy Christians as a scrappy church. Okay, let's keep going. 41. Now they're going to break it down and really talk about each one of it. The outward deluge of the scrappy church. And it's a good little analogy. Read, David.
I met Anton many years ago. He was on student visa from Russia. It was the first time in the United States, and it was his first time, I apologize, in the United States. Like any of us in a new culture, we don't fully understand matters those native to the culture take for granted. Such was the case when two of the family friends and I took Anton to dinner. The restaurant we had chose had a pick 3 menu. You choose your salad, entree, and dessert when you first ordered. We 3 Americans made our choices. Anton watched carefully as we ordered. It was his turn. Like us 3 Americans, Anton made his choices. But instead of ordering a salad, entree, and a dessert, he ordered 3 entrees. The server was kind but clear. Sir, you can't order those 3. Anton looked hurt. You mean I can't have those? I intervened. We likely misplaced compassion. I told the server it was okay. I would pay for his 3 entrees. The orders came to our table. Anton had 3 plates. On each plate, respectively, was a 14-ounce ribeye, a large grilled grouper, and a baked chicken. Boy, he was hungry. 2 sides included on each plate. For the mathematician, that's 6 total sides. There were also 3 desserts. Anton stared at his plates for several long seconds. He then looked up. In halting English, he said, "I'm unable to process what just happened."
Keep going.
Do you remember what I said earlier about the outward focus of scrappy churches? They typically increase their outward focus on fourfold or more. When I tell other leaders the same thing, they often stare blankly or look with their mouths agape. It's as if they were saying the same words as Anton. I am unable to process what just happened.
Let's stop right there. So that's what we say when we say we got to do more, we got to flood more, we got to do 100% more. Our mind can't wrap around doing any more. You know, when Antoine got to tell you, he looked like what just happened. And so we think the same thing. Pastor want to call us to do more, be more, but the Spirit is, God is. And so you go, well, how much more can I do? How many times can I be at the church? But it's different being at the church and being in ministry. Sometimes we just get into a routine. Okay? Keep going, David.
The idea of increasing our outward focus seems unreasonable, unlikely, and perhaps impossible. But that's exactly what most of the scrappy churches did. But let's look at how these churches accomplished such a Herculean task. Thank you. Let's return for a moment to the turnaround cycle. In its purest sense, a cycle is something that moves from point to point and keeps moving in that same direction. In the illustration of the turnaround cycle, the points on the cycle are outward deluge, welcome readiness, and backdoor closure. For simplicity, I kept the cycle clean as if we moved from one point to another. But in real life, the path is not so clean and simple. Each of the points interact with the others. For example, if you are leading your church toward backdoor closure, you are usually dealing with welcome readiness and outward focus issues, outward deluge. Each point impacts the other points either positively or negatively.
Amen. Stop right there, David. So it ain't as clean as it looks. That's why I gave you all 3 of them. The one he's talking about is number 3. Because it's all kind of going the same time. It ain't just, flooding the neighborhood, then they coming in, and then we helping to close. It's all working. And he said that's more of the realistic one, that it all flooding together, coming together. It ain't one at a time, it's all together, okay? And so we got to be kind of, look at it that way and kind of be ready for it. That it ain't step 1, 2, 3, but it's all 3 sometimes together, flooding and mingling together. Comments? Questions? Okay. Go ahead, sweetie.
So our turnaround cycle might look more accurately like this depiction.
Yeah.
Okay, I know I've just made the illustration messy and hard to follow. My point, though, is simple. As we are dealing with one part of the cycle, we are usually dealing with all 3. At very least, how we deal with one part of the turnaround cycle impacts the other 2 parts.
They all work together. If we welcome folks right, if we go into the community right, and more of a community presence and more of a community love, and then we bring them in and we have we continue to be better welcoming, or even welcoming even in the community, better inside, and then folks will stay in, and then the back door won't be so open, and the cycle will process, will continue. We'll keep more folks, and we'll make disciples who can make disciples who can make disciples. Amen? Okay, let's go. Outward deluge. Why many churches struggle. Got to read that.
Do you remember the fourfold factor I mentioned earlier? Simply put, most scrappy churches increase their outwardly focused effort by around 4 times. When I tell this to pastors of struggling churches, their responses are typically ones of disbelief. Wait a minute, one pastor from Colorado explained. I can't get my members to attend more than twice a month. That's just 2 to 3 hours a month. And now you are telling me we have to increase over time reaching the community by as much as 4 times? That's impossible. Okay, I got it, I get it. Many of you are stretched thin. Your members are busy, too busy. Life is hectic. Then someone tells you the church has to do more. You roll your eyes. You feel frustrated. You may feel more hopeless than ever. Allow me to address a couple of issues, 2 areas that might ease your concern.
Keep going.
You need to lead the church to replace busyness with effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Look at your church calendar. Look at all the meetings on there. Look at the busiest every week. Are they all absolutely necessary? Be honest. Would your church suffer greatly if you begin to eliminate some of the busyness of your church schedule?
With yours? With your schedule? What's on your schedule? Individually as well as the churches. Are you busy? Is there some stuff you can eliminate? This is talking about the church. I mean, that's for pastor to do, but I'm just saying in general. I'm talking about now your schedule, because then that affects how you work with the church's schedule. So check your schedule and see if we just busy. Sometimes you can be busy and busy doing nothing. Or busy doing stuff, but it ain't what you should be doing. You can busy put yourself in a rut. Huh? So just check what you say.
Who was that?
Teresa. What you say? Say it. Busy.
Busy, no busy work.
Busy, no busy work. What that mean? Just being busy. Yeah. Just being busy. I mean, just where are you at with it? Individually.
For myself, there was a time I wasn't really making Bible study, right? And I was busy. I really was busy. It wasn't like I was trying to not get here. But life takes hold, and sometimes you just can't make it. So for me, I had to start to rearrange my schedule and start to give up some of the things that I had planned, right? Because I had to prioritize what was more important to me. And so for me, it's more important to get a better understanding of God's word, be amongst the people, and feel comfortable. So now that I've changed my schedule, when I can't make it here, my whole week is thrown off. It's just like, okay, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you I want to come to Bible study every Tuesday. I'm not going to sit here and say that. But I know if I don't get here, when I can get here, right, I'm going to have a bad week. That's just how it goes. Now, if it's something that comes up in my life and I can't get here, I'm not going to feel as bad as if I sit home and say, oh, well, tonight, the game is on. I like the Knicks. I want to see them play ball. And make an excuse, well, I go to Bible study every week. They're not going to miss me. That's just for me. I don't know. Other people probably don't do that, but I do have those issues. But I'm trying to get better with that.
You ain't the only one, David. Everybody laughing. I mean, not everybody, but smiling. You ain't the only one. And sometimes, we got children, we got school, we got husbands, we got wives, we got family, got balance. I don't know nothing about balance, so I'm the wrong one to talk to. I got to check that up myself. Anybody else got balance? But check your busyness. Is it busy? Is it busy? Is it God busyness or is it just self busyness? Go ahead, Sharon.
Well, that's why you really gotta be careful. You really gotta ask God, because sometimes you will just be busy and it's not effective. You're just doing this, doing that. Somebody asks you to do this, do that, and then you're doing more church than taking care of yourself. Or you're doing more selfish stuff and making excuses. So you gotta have a balance. So you gotta know where you're supposed to be, so that you can be effective, and then it works into your schedule because that's where you're supposed to be. So you're not trying to make an excuse for not doing it because that's where you're supposed to be. Like, we know we've done the gifts and all that stuff, and some of us have realized where we're supposed to be and we weren't there. So it's almost like when you're where you're supposed to be, it may still be difficult, but it flows. And it's because that's where God wants you to be. But if you do not have balance, then you ain't going to want to come to class. You're not going to want to sing. You ain't going to want to do nothing because now you're like all over. And then you get that rebellious spirit because you don't want to be here because it's not where you're supposed to be. You got to have balance. Family, God, family is always first. It is.
Yeah.
You guys, I know I'm not married, but I know the marriage is first before anything. And if y'all are married and you're working this Christian thing out together, it flows. And it's not affecting your marriage because you're not over here too much and you're denying, what God ordained you to do. It's all about balance. Like, I think we need a class on balance, how to be balanced, for real. Because a lot of us don't know how.
No, yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
For me, when the Spirit convicts me and checks me, I kind of relate it to something in the Bible because there's nothing new under the sun. A lot of things are right in the Bible for us to learn from. And this, what we're talking about now, is reminding me of how when Jesus was in the house with Martha and Mary, and how one was tending to Jesus, preparing to wash his feet, and the other was in the kitchen and was angry because her sister wasn't coming in to help her clean. But Jesus let her know that she was doing what she should be doing, taking about her business, whereas this one, she was being too busy trying to, I guess, be chef, in the kitchen. So I just relay a lot of things when the Spirit convicts me with things that I'm doing to just different things in the Bible, because that teaches me and it helps me, to grow and do it right.
Anybody else? Kevin, wait a minute.
I look at it as if I used to before I used to be scattered, but I looked at it as what if God treated me the way I was treating him as far as my time goes? Where would I be? So I had to really think about that and put myself in a shell and think like, okay, balance is one thing, you know what I mean, between life, family, school, work, church, worship, whatever you do. But no matter what you do and before you do anything, you have got to go to God. So I realized that, well, I knew it, but I had to actually acknowledge it. And he is my balance. So without him, I have no balance. So I had to realize, I said, if God decided to put me in timeout and not have time for me, where would I be? So how could I do that to him? So I checked myself before I wrecked myself and got myself together and put him first, no matter what. Because before I do anything, I have to go to him before I make any decisions. So that's what got me more balanced and more focused and, level when it comes to life, instances.
Got to prioritize. Anyone else? Because we do what we want to do in terms of priority. And I guess I should say in prioritizing. So if Bible study is important to you, then that will be kind of like a priority. Even though obedience, because Pastor asks us. But I mean, even if he don't ask you, that's just part of the Christian walk. You wanna learn and be better at what we're doing. And so yeah. Anybody else want to comment? And I think sometimes we just got to know when that part of the season is up too. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we stay in stuff and it ain't your time for that ministry or your time for that season for that is up, right? And so we want to stay in it because we kind of feel bad if we come out of it because we've been in it so long. But sometimes the season kind of change, right? What if we had winter all year long? All year long, all the snow, all year long. Huh? Or we had summer all year long. So thank God for seasons changing. But you just got to recognize that you got to change with them. That's why sometimes we stay in these ministries and we get grumpy, we get mean, and we start comparing, and we start not moving over. I'm just talking about me. I've learned it being in it, not moving over, and we think it's our ministry and nobody else's, and nobody else can run it and do it like us, and because sometimes we just need to move over. Mama Jean said all the time, you just let some new blood. I think Mama Jean says it. Move, because she tells me that all the time. Just let the new folks, let the younger folks have. It's always another. I'm learning. I'm learning because I listen to Pastor and listen to Bible study. Pastor said a couple of weeks ago, it's always a next. It's always a next. We've done this. He said we celebrated church anniversary, but it's always a next. But if we get stuck in here and don't go to the next. Yes.
I agree with what you're saying, but where is that person that's going to take over? Where is that person that wants to take over a particular ministry? Where is that person? I'm looking every day for somebody to take over the bereavement ministry. But where is that person? I've had people that come to me that said that they want to be on the ministry, but they can't come to the funerals. So where is that person? I agree with you that we're in ministries a long time, but where is that person that wants to take over that particular ministry? Who?
I guess you have to pray to God and let him send you the person.
And I do. I pray every day for somebody to come and take over the bereavement ministry.
And maybe the person couldn't come to the funerals at the time, but you never know what they could do a little later. If you just give them a little foot in there, it might open up a door for them to come in later. You ain't go. You don't got no choice. You have to pray and let the Lord send you person that will replace you, and be willing to open and let them be the replacement. Because sometimes we don't even let them do that. Okay? Yeah. And we got to be, I guess.
I think, too, this is just what I observe, like even with myself. It seems like sometimes people see leadership, and you can be doing it for a long time, and you can be ready to not do it. But if they keep seeing you doing it, and it looks like it's doing so well, they're going to think that you don't need somebody.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's like you might have to just move out the way completely, so there'll be a need.
Yeah.
Because, I think sometimes we get so worried about it being so good and making it. But sometimes if it doesn't make it, it will make opportunity for somebody to say, oh, let me try.
Amen.
We're scared to fail.
Yeah.
But it's okay to let go.
Yeah.
And then have an open spot for somebody to come on in. Because just because you have an assistant, I'm going to use my friend, Janie, Kids Church. She's the assistant. Does she want to be the leader? No. She don't want to be the leader. But technically, you're supposed to be that next person. Mm-hmm. But she's good at what she does. Mm-hmm. She don't want to be the leader. Maybe that's not her place. So if I leave and she's the leader, then she's really not where she's supposed to be because that's not her thing. She's like administration, not leader. So, how do we know if we're still there that somebody wants to come take over? I just think they see everything going on. It looks so good. I don't need nobody to take over.
Yeah, we make it look that way, yeah.
Yeah, even though they don't know what happens behind the scenes, it just looks like it runs so smoothly. So they don't need nobody. They're good. Yeah. So how do you know unless you say something?
But we're going to have to make room for them. We have to make room. We're going to have to, I don't care how good we do it, still going to have to make room for other folks. That's the scrappy church.
But then there are also certain things where the season's over.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily need another leader to rise up. It's just, okay, we've had our run, and we're done.
Okay. Yeah. There's some seasonal things in the book. Then there's some sustainable things in the book. So he's right. He's right.
What's seasonal and it's done, and what's sustainable.
Sustainable. Yeah. That's what prayer and.
So now we're just doing it. Annual this, annual that, but in between there's nothing.
Well, that's what the book says. Some sacred cows we have. As we keep reading, we got some stuff that, like you said. Yeah. Well, that's what Pastor's asking.
How can we do it?
Yeah.
How can we do it together?
Yeah.
Ain't pointing no fingers. What I'm saying, let's do it together.
You're right. But that's what he's asking too. He said at the end of the book, be honest, write your page, and all that you think is done, season over with, and what you think, then you put that down. And sign your name to it now. Because he want to know. If you're gonna write letters and say that, then say who you are so you can help. You know, because we good at saying what we should do. But then when it's come to find out somebody to help, you ain't nowhere around. And so the same people do the same stuff. And so make sure he wants you to, and I don't know if he wants you, if you don't want to sign your name, he didn't say rather sign your name or not sign your name. But just be a part to help with it. Because we all got what we should be doing. And normally it's the person that ain't doing nothing. Sometimes. Yes, Jonathan.
I was just going to say that it's kind of been, from my experience, you know, you have an idea, you bring forward the idea, and then somebody always says, yeah, that's a really, really great idea, you should do it, and then the hurdle at that point is finding people to assist you in overcoming said hurdle. We have brilliant people in Beulah who have brilliant world-changing ideas, and they present them to the people who they need to be presented to, and they're given the green light to go ahead and accomplish it and achieve it and start on doing it. And then personally, we had an event that we used to do in the youth commission that I was doing. At first I had help, and then I wound up kind of sort of just doing it by myself. So I said, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore, because everyone agreed that it's a great idea. Everybody was there to support it when it happened. But all the legwork, the running around, the ordering, the this, the that, and the third, like it got shrunk and shrunk and shrunk till it was just me. So we have that issue, and that's not a singular issue to say, you know, it's a great idea. We love it. We appreciate it. We will support you. We'll come when it's all well said and done. But where are the people to help with the legwork? You know, Cheryl is absolutely 100% blessed to have a Miss Janie, who is phenomenal with the administration stuff. But not everybody has that partner, that group, that team, and that's the hardest part of getting things done. When you say, okay, here we're going to do this, we're going to get this idea out, we're going to go out in the community and do this. Yeah, that's a really, really great idea. Okay, who's going to help me? Crickets.
Yeah. So what do you suggest?
Figuring out who's willing to help, because a lot of times people want to be asked, but I don't know who's good at what. I don't know whose gift is courtesy or hospitality. So I don't know to go ask Miss Pam to be the greeter. I don't know to ask Miss Rendesia to make the phone calls. I don't know what other people's gifts are to say that, you know, they might not want to volunteer to say, oh, I'll do it, or I can do it, or this is what I'm good at. But people want to be asked. People want to feel like they belong. And when you ask somebody, can you help me, that gives them a sense of purpose. Yeah. But I don't know who does what. I don't know who's good at what. Like, some people I know are educators. Some people, I have no idea what they do between Sundays. And they could be the perfect person to help somebody get this ministry accomplished, get this event off and running, to get this change, this world changed. I don't know what they're good at. I don't have their spiritual gift assessment in my email to say, oh, this person's good at administration. Oh, this person's good at teaching. Oh, this person's good at whatever. I don't know who I can ask for certain things. And just saying, you know, hey, if anybody wants to help, let me know, doesn't work.
Okay.
stream through that, we have that information, but you need a central database so that, for instance, if he's doing an event and I don't know, they're doing some play, they needed something built, you can, go to Wendy or whoever, and you got a list of people, like this is what they do, so then he'll know who he can go approach and ask. So we have information around here, we just don't have it centralized somewhere so that we can get to it.
So who's willing to help do that? I mean,
Well-
because you can go to pastor and you can talk to that. So who's willing to help to
I
do
don't know.
that?
Well, I know years ago when I was out of work, when I first started coming to church, when I was in there, they have on the computer, they have a database where, like, where your name is and your member number. There was another screen that lists, like, your talents, your spiritual gifts and all that. I don't know if they still have that program there, but if that's utilized, then we can always access a record of people that have the gifts you're looking for.
So maybe they need a database team that does that on a regular. 'Cause
Well,
maybe,
if they have if they have I don't know what kind of computer system or if they have it
I
there.
say this because we say this and we say, okay, it's on the screen, and probably we think Wendy and whoever, but Wendy got 150 things she do too. So if you got a person that can do that, just do that to help her, then why don't we get a team just to do that to help?
Well, I don't know what's the reason why they didn't utilize it then. I'm just saying, I know I saw it. I don't
Yeah.
know why they didn't utilize it, but if they have something like that, that would be very helpful because like Jonathan said, I deal with people in 40 days always, and now they're here and learning, like, okay, there's some expectation, but they don't know. They hear about these ministry names. They don't really know what they do. We hear an announcement, but they don't know, like, what needs to be done or if it's something they would be interested. So we have to, even when we're looking for people, we got to advertise things to really put it out there. We need someone to do A, B, C, and D and let the people know.
So I think we need, I think that's why Pastor wants us to write down stuff and come to him, and because he need the help too. I mean, he can't think of it all either, so he need the help. So whatever you're suggesting, like Jonathan said, write it down and we can see what we can do, what he can do. Because he just say what he can't do it all either. So that's a good idea. I'm not pastor, so don't look at me. He asks y'all to, at the end of the class, write it down so that we can go over it, so that we can move forward, right? And then we got good ideas and people to do it. So I know one time we used to have a book with all the different, that ain't the same thing, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. You're right. We need to have so going forward, we need to have something like that for everybody. Because like Jonathan said, some folks are sitting there just waiting for you to ask them. But Jonathan, let me ask you a question. If you see somebody sitting and you ask them if they can help, you can't ask them right there what do they do that they, when you ask them to help you, can you ask them right then, like, what kind of work do you do, or what can you do, or,
Yes, and that's a part of, welcome readiness, giving them the sense that, hey, you actually care about me more than just warming a seat.
yeah,
But sometimes, like, not everybody's in the room. So if we're having a youth commission meeting on the third Thursday of every other month and saying this is what we want to do, and then I have to go out and find somebody within the congregation, they're not in the room to say, okay, are you good at building a set? Are you good at construction? Are you good at woodworking? If nobody's in the room, I need to be able to say, okay, well, let's go figure out who it is, and to have, like Ms. Janey suggested, like a place to say, okay, well, who knows how to build stuff? Who knows how to write this? Who knows how to craft this? Who knows how to set this? I know who I can go to if I need something decorated, but I don't know who I can go to if I need something built, or if I need somebody to give for Black History Month, like, I dealt with segregation story, and that's not even something that might come up in, like, your general conversation stuff, but to have a resource of, like, to understand who does what you're good at, what are your gifts, what are your skills, what are your hobbies, what are you willing to do? Because some people, and I understand it, have a 9-to-5 that they want to leave as a 9-to-5. I do this from Monday to Friday from 9 to 5, and I would prefer not to do it after 5 o'clock.
Okay.
And that's fair, and you want to know that. So I don't want to go to Mr. Scott, for example, Dr. Scott, for example, and say, hey, can you teach a class when he's been a principal all day? I will, though, for the record. But to kind of have an understanding of what people do, what people are good at, what is their function as a member of the body of Christ, because we have a lot of people who are sitting, waiting, and willing, and able to be used, but we don't know what they're good at.
Did anybody take the spiritual gift test? How many people took it? Yeah. If you haven't taken it, just talk to Ms. Lothery. They have where you can take the spiritual gift test and you can know what your spiritual gifts are. Wait a minute, get the mic. Get the mic, I'm doing.
We've been here for 2 years, and we enjoy the church immensely. But there's a lot of value in what Minister Jonathan is saying.
Yeah.
And I think the resources are there because we've taken the test. We've even got a flyer with all of the ministries in the church. But I think what's lacking now at this point is just follow through. Because even reading through the list, when they said, well, any ministries here you're interested in and whatnot, it showed the list of the ministries, but in terms of what they are, what they do, their capacities, maybe a summary or something might be added to them. So that way, somebody that's coming in might not be familiar with that term. They can sort of kind of figure out exactly what takes place in that ministry. The other piece is in terms of the spiritual gift. If you already have that information, just like Janie was saying, you put it in a database, and all the servant leaders can go to that database. Because a lot of times that stuff could be, personal and so forth. But if the servant leaders have access to that, they can sort of kind of find the answers to the questions that he's inquiring to find out who might have a skill set that might be beneficial to the body of Christ. So those are all valid points, but I think just at this point, some follow-up with that process, because you already have the tools there, might sort of kind of close that gap that he's referring to.
Oh, amen. Amen.
Hold on 1 second. That's all right.
Database, JD said.
We have something that was put together some years ago, giving a description and background on each ministry. So, and I can pull out one of my old reference books that I got from Beulah, around the time I came, because I came some 25 years ago. So I'll bring that, and we can use that, as a starting point to update and get another handbook out so that all new members and everyone could be aware of what each ministry offers.
Amen. All right. Anyone else? Pastor's here. Hey, Pastor.
Hey, what's up? Good evening.
Okay, he said no. Amen. Okay, amen. That's a good idea, the database. Let's keep going. So you keep reading, David.
About
the
43,
busyness.
am I correct? 45?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
yes.
I know if you start eliminating things, you run the danger of conflict. Some of these activities and ministries are the metaphorical scarecrows, but I imagine some of them are just plain busyness. Can you eliminate some of those with minimum pain? Where is the low-hanging fruit? What can you stop doing now to make room for something better? In many of our churches, we simply need to replace the good with great. Go back to some of the attitudinal issues we addressed earlier. It is possible you are the stumbling block toward eliminating busyness. Do you need to demonstrate both wisdom and courage? Life is too short to settle for mediocrity. Get started by leading your church to simplify and eliminate some of the busyness. Your members will add capacity if you feel like they are doing something meaningful. Most everyone wants to be a part of something that makes a difference. Most everyone wants to make a difference. If your church active members attend only twice a month, they possibly don't think their presence in the church makes a difference.
Amen.
Keep in mind, your younger families will gladly do whatever is necessary to get their kids to soccer practice. That's really important for them. And for many of them, it is more important than It is more important than attending church. Sure, we can find fault with them. We can express anger and frustration, or we can offer them something more meaningful to do, something that makes a difference. Also, keep in mind the younger families are part of the millennial generations, those born between 1980 and 2000. That's definitely not me. They are the largest generation in America at 78 million strong. They and their children are a lot of people. We can make a difference as we seek to reach them. That's what scrappy churches do. That's what your church can do. Look around again at the turnaround cycle. Let's get serious about the outward deluge.
Amen. And so I gave you another little cycle of it. And so, like Jonathan said, the different ideas and the different things that we can help to be better as a scrappy church. And you just said it. People just waiting to be asked to help and to do something. And so even the millennials. And so Pastor, I said it last week, I think I'll say it again. Pastor has a lot to kind of mull over in terms of trying to make everybody be inclusive and everything flows and everything works. And so, and when the attendance is down, when the attendance is up. And so we just got to be better at what we do and open the door for others to help us do it and do it in love, right? Don't get quiet because Pastor here, everybody looking. Y'all was talking good till he came in the door, amen.
Now you gonna blow everybody up, huh?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm a little nervous myself right about now, but it's all good. But anyhow, but he's right. We need to just, like Janie said, the database, and who some people take the spiritual inventory test. Just ask Ms. Lothery about it. That way you know what you're good at, where you are. And then he can have, like Jonathan said, and not only Jonathan, but we can have a starting point. And like Ann said, we can put it in a book, and we know everybody's skills and what people can do, and then you know where to go from, right? Anybody else? Any comments? And then we're going to pray about Virginia getting her a second person for the bereavement ministry. Because Virginia, we're going to make sure and pray about that.
So I think, okay.
No, she said me in the prayer ministry. Go ahead, David.
No, I think, everybody may find points, and if you're a leader of a ministry and you've been there a while, right, I think that's why you have an assistant. What you're hoping for is eventually that person, I thought about disciples, making disciples, right? Eventually, you get somebody and try to put them under your wing or whatever, and eventually you ease off, not just ease off, but help them learn how to do that ministry. It's kind of like when I think about a system, and if a system is in place, if the person comes in, they don't really have to do much. They can follow the system that's already been there. Because I think sometimes when people want to take over new things, they don't want to fail because they really don't have a blueprint on how it go. And so the person who's in leadership, just don't leave them, kind of let them ease in, and eventually when they get comfortable enough, you can say, hey, you can take the ball and run. I think that's what happens a lot when people may want to take over something, but they don't want to take it over and fail at it, and then hear everybody browbeat them and say, oh, because, nobody wants to be a failure. Everybody wants to succeed.
Has anybody ever failed at something? What'd you do when you failed?
Get up and try it again.
Got back up and tried again.
But it's harder when you're in church. It's just harder.
Why?
I don't know why.
Why is it hard because we're in church? They don't never let you live it down?
There you go.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think part of our problem is, so like I'm Cheryl's assistant, and sometimes servant leaders think assistant, the next move for the assistant is to be the servant leader, but no, you need assistance. I know in kids' church, we got a lot of people that were assistants that they gave it up because it was a lot of talk like, well, they're assistant, they should be teaching too. No, you need assistance. So maybe that isn't the place for them to now become the teacher, but now because they feel like that's what's expected of them, now they're not assistants. You know, and this is what happens sometimes, you know, we're just saying yeah to things. So if Cheryl moved out the way and everybody's looking at me or expecting me to move in because I'm the assistant, but that's really not my place. You know, I'm more of a behind the scene person. She's a servant leader, need to be out front and all. So I don't think just because you're the assistant, you should think that they're the next person to move into that role. But as leaders, we should be looking amongst the people, because, you know, you may see something in them that they don't see in themselves. And then you start to encourage, you know, that person and start to mentor them.
That's it. Amen. Any other questions, comments? Time to go home. Pastor, any comments? You know we're going to get him to say something, y'all. We got to get him to say something. That's our pastor. We got to get him to say something. Come on, y'all. Give God a praise. Yeah.
Bless your heart. God bless you. Had the duty of eulogizing Pastor Willie Horton today, and the family, and just left the family and so forth. This was a long funeral, and this girls and wife asked me to preach the funeral. So that's where I've been today. That's why I'm looking all spiffy. It was a good service, good homegoing. Beloved, we've had a lot of teachings and we've had seminars, but really what we're looking for to come out of this is some due differences. You know, the database, I came in, you were talking about that, the importance of having the data. And so, you know, as we go through this class, as we come to the end of it, we really want to get from you, we want to come out of it with a blueprint of how we can be better. 2 or 3 years ago, our church theme was on Jim Collins' book. Jim Collins wrote a book called From Good to Great. It's a business book. He looked at 14 major businesses that went from mediocre businesses to great businesses. And he took those principles and you can apply them to the church. He says that good is the enemy of great. As long as you're satisfied being good, you'll never be great. I believe that God calls us be great Christians. He calls his church to be a great church. Now, church growth experts say that church retention rate of 40%, that you are an average church. That is, if 10 people join your church in October of 2019, if 4 of them are still members in October of 2020, then you are an average church. I believe God calls the church to be better than average. So there are some things you can do to improve upon that 40%. And that's what we want to do. Not because we are all that concerned about numbers, but when God gives us something, we want to be able to keep it, to nurture it, and to nourish it. So thank you for your presence. Thank you, Reverend Sheila, for leading us. Did Reverend Sheila do all right? Yeah. And I just came in and I heard Janie McCall talking about, Janie McCall has leadership ability. Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Yeah, she's talking about, she's a great assistant. Here, I believe this, you hear me say that. I'm going to get this. If you're too big to follow, then you're too little to lead. Tell your neighbor what I just said. If you're too big to follow, then you're too little to lead. That's right. So everybody, good followers, those who know how to follow, they have the potential of making good leaders. So thank you again. What time is it? All right. Oh, that's good. Our Father, how we bless your name, how we thank you, God, for the wonderful privilege of being your people, the wonderful privilege of being your church, oh God, and being this designated branch of Zion, oh God. We want to do it your way, oh God. We want to do your will. We want to be better representatives of who you are. Thank you for Reverend Sheila. Thank you for this assembly here tonight. Dismiss us, give us traveling grace, we run home safely. In Jesus' name we pray and thank you. Amen.